Welcome back, and if you guessed what the ending of the last video was...
Did anybody guess?
Bird noises.
Well, we had an issue with a hawk.
A hawk got one of our birds this week, and now the other girls are...
Not just the girls, the whole flock.
The whole flock is kind of a little...
It has changed their lives.
It changed the way we had to move their water. We always kept in the same. Now since then we had to move the food and water within
right outside the coop,
5 feet of their coop, because they only stay within 5 feet unless we're out there. Which now we found out that they do know us. They do trust us, but maybe not enough to like go pet them and feed out of our hands. But they do trust us enough that they come out.
They see me. They only will come out when they see one of us. It's okay, you could come out. I'll sit out here with you. The whole issue happened because we had the Khaki Campbell girls. If you've seen, somehow they were getting out. So we thought, okay, let's try to fix it.
Got some big logs and put it all the way around the perimeter.
So that they can't push their way underneath. And then we also strung up some string.
Some wrestling ring. It looked like just 3 ropes.
It looked like
made it like 5 foot tall, maybe, if I had to guess. It's probably about 5 foot tall now with the ropes strung up. Mind you, somehow they still got out.
For a couple of days there, they weren't getting out, and so we're like, we solved the problem.
Yeah.
What have we been doing this whole time? We
Why
just
did it
fixed
take a whole month to find out? But we did it.
We just fixed the whole problem, but. We didn't.
No,
after we fixed it, and they were good for like 2 or 3 days, not getting out, and we thought we fixed the problem. Then that very day that they flew over or whatever they did, we didn't watch them get out.
They know how to get out, but they do not know how to get back in.
No.
So once they are out, they are a little bit more in the risk of wildlife.
They're very vulnerable at that point because they don't have their whole flock. They don't have cover.
Yeah, because if they run into safety now, they just run right into the fence. And now they just get entangled in the fence. So I imagine that is exactly what happened because of where I had found her.
And next
to the fence.
As soon as he went out, he noticed that all the other ducks were inside of the coop.
And that's why I noticed
that these 3 were out on their own outside of the fence. And the 2 that didn't get caught, they were trying to get inside the to get into the coop.
They were going to skin themselves through that fence.
To try to get through. If it was the last thing that they did, they were going to get through that fence.
Dang. This is our first loss to
a predator. It's the risk. It's the risk you run to have animals.
Yeah. This week has been kind of before the saddening part of losing a bird. We got Beaver on our property.
This whole week has been absolutely hectic.
Yeah, it's been a little hectic. We bought the house almost a year ago now. Neighbors came over within the first month of us being here and said, hey, and I asked them.
Just within the first week or 2.
Yeah, probably.
It was really fast.
Yeah. I didn't know how fast you would meet neighbors, but they came over very soon and they
kind of just, I think they were just introducing themselves, but he asked the neighbor,
is the water always like this?
Is the water always this high? Is there always so much water? Like, yes, there's a creek or whatever behind our house, because we have a river
down the way
that
the creek flows to.
Well,
for the drainage of the...
Is it always this high? Because the creek itself looks like a river.
Yeah. It's starting to get 50, 75 foot wide at some point. So I'm like...
This is crazy.
Yeah.
And she said, actually, no. Basically, they just tried a bunch of things to find out that there's nothing that they can do without paying to have a beaver dam destroyed. The beaver's destroyed. You can't relocate in our state.
Yeah.
Basically, they tried all the avenues, but they didn't have any luck.
It's up to us as the homeowner. So, on our street, it has a little curve through it, and the creek goes underneath the road and goes into a farm.
That has like a pond, and it basically kind of ends there.
Yeah, I think it's a man-made pond that the farm utilizes probably for like watering. But that feeds underneath the road
into the creek, into the river.
Into the river down yonder. And now, the beaver had stopped up on our property.
We had a dam on our property, but the water wasn't on our property.
Yeah, the water was only maybe on the half acre on the back side of the property where it's wooded anyways.
Yeah, where we aren't going back there.
Where it's not cleared. Basically.
It's not cleared. So, but the majority of the water was on our direct neighbor's water or land.
And
where
all the rest of them.
Yes, but the majority, like they had the biggest problem with all the water because of the beaver. And then at the end of the road, the water would cover the road where it's supposed to go under.
Hard, it would cover it.
Mm-hmm. When it's supposed to go under and feed into the pond, it just was sitting there.
Yeah, he built the dam so much that the water was just on the road at all the time now. Maybe not deep, but it was there.
And like we said, this has been an ongoing problem since before we were here.
In the year that we've lived here, he built the dam probably a foot taller and 50 foot wide.
And we weren't just sitting here stagnant either. Like we went out there probably a handful of times and knocked it down. We didn't have any tools. I mean, this is the first time we lived in the country. We were city people. We didn't have. I mean, we went out there with the shovel a few times, trying to knock down the dam ourselves, but we really didn't have. Well built. Yes, and then every time we would go out there, he would just build it back bigger and better.
Within a week.
Within a few days, a day or two, a few days, he would just have it bigger and better. And he just kept doing this over and over.
And widening and widening and widening.
To the point where it got kind of...
It got out
to the point where you couldn't break it down by yourself, basically. So, we...
Dam. It was successful.
Mm-hmm.
It made the little bit of our brush, our wooded property.
Any water that was on our land was gone.
But the neighbors still had water. I'm like, this is why.
Why didn't it completely flow out? Yeah. Why isn't the whole street
why is the road still covered?
Right.
I'm like, the road came down because it was no longer like a half inch all the way across.
But you would think how all of our water left, you would think that all the water would be gone. Within 30 minutes, I was
like, yeah, we're good. And the next day I wake up, their grass is still wet. And I'm talking like 2-3 inches wet. So, and then I'm like, what? This ain't right. So I go back. I thought the beaver had rebuilt our dam that we just blew up the day before. No,
but he didn't.
He didn't. So I'm like,
no,
okay.
He just decided he was going to start building a
different
dam.
One. At some point in time, he built a secondary dam.
Yep.
So he built a secondary dam, which I think is a little bit more well built. Mine that he had it 50 foot wide
smarter.
on our property. This one's not 50 foot wide. It's only like 10 foot wide. But it's
more it's sticks, better constructed.
Sticks.
It's better constructed.
Yeah, he had his time on that one.
And so now we're dealing with that issue of another dam. And basically what's happening is that as we destroy his dam, he's just moving further and further down the creek.
Yeah, upstream.
Towards our other neighbors' houses, and he's just moving down the line, essentially. So we came together and decided that this is basically a community problem, our street problem.
Yeah, it's our street problem.
Before just killing animals, neither one of us are.
We were going to try to get relocated.
That's what we wanted to do. We actually asked, like, who can we call? And they said, you cannot do that.
That's against the law.
In your state, you cannot. So.
And now we are honing in on this beaver.
Yep, we're starting to pinpoint this problem, have the traps set, and
maybe we could solve that issue too. And maybe the neighbors will not have to worry about flooding.
But even through all this headache, it's made us realize how lucky we are to be where we are and to have the little community that we have, because it was never like this where we lived before. I mean, there was a few people, but it was like few and far between.
Like the day we all came out and we all like investigated and
all together, went out there, set the traps together, walked around the woods.
Set these traps.
Y'all were just all figuring it out together.
Yeah, just YouTube. You can learn anything.
We just, we're coming together, and nobody's, complaining. Like, everybody's just doing what they need to do. They're doing their part, and that's amazing to me. But the other side of that too is that as we're trying to, locate this beaver and this beaver dam, and, David's walking through the woods.
Like 10 o'clock at night with a flashlight, and
he's just out there like looking for this beaver.
Yeah, trying to fix
so of course people are going to be like, what's that light? What's going on? And so we met some of our other neighbors down the road that we hadn't met them before, but we've seen that they have coops and they have chickens. So we're like, oh yeah, that's the one with the chickens.
So I went, because I hadn't walked on his property yet at this time, and
but he was trying to go throughout the whole woods. Yeah. So the further that he went, basically,
I'm going on more and more people's property. And I met a neighbor. He has chickens. Had chickens. He lost them to predators. Mm-hmm. But now he got quail, because they're a little bit more, you can have them in a container and they're just as happy. He was like, yeah, I incubate them, and hopefully my first batch of quail are going to be hatching within like the next week. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool.
And everybody knows us as the duck.
Yeah.
Duck
He's
farm.
like, oh, you're down there? You got the ducks.
You're the one with the ducks.
You're the one with the ducks. Little did I know we were the people with the ducks.
I didn't know that everybody on the street just knew
the ducks.
Yep.
Yeah, them with the ducks.
Y'all are the people with the ducks.
That's
that's us.
I said, yeah, that's my house. He's like, oh,
so
okay.
In all this conversation, y'all came to this conclusion that you're going to be dealing with the beavers, and it was just kind of like a hi, nice to meet you, I'm going to be taking care of this. And that could have been the end of it. They could have never talked again. This is a neighbor way down the road.
And I tell her, I get back home, I'm like, hey, I'm at the neighbor.
And he just thinks he's just talking, and he's just telling me, yeah, he has chickens, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember, I saw his chickens, and I saw his coops, but then he says, something got them, he has no more chickens, now he's raising quail, he tells me the whole story. And he has an incubator. Pause.
So she's like,
what?
Some of these eggs might be fertilized. So we ended up giving him a dozen.
Well, I knew that we had we just got rid of Cornelius. Yeah. So I started Googling, and I'm like, how long?
7 days.
Are duck eggs good? Because we have some duck eggs that, how long are fertile duck eggs good for, that they can still be incubated and still have a good survival rate? Says 7 days. So I'm like, oh my god.
We start looking at the dates.
Cornelius left on this date. It's only been this many days. So, okay, we have like a 3-day window time that these eggs might be fertile.
If they are fertile.
Yes. So
she was like,
I was like, can you please just take these down there? Just tell him, like, I'd love to see pictures if he ever has, baby ducklings hatch. Like, that would just be so cool. He takes them down there, and, the guy's, like, super surprised. Like, okay. Yeah. Well, in all of this, today, as
stops by.
The neighbors are all out there doing traps and having fun, having a good old time, getting to know each other.
Doing some country stuff.
The neighbor down the way
stopped
by, and I got to meet him for the first time, and
he stopped by with some quail eggs.
Hey, here's some quail eggs.
And then he told us that he had put
fry them up, scramble them up. I put your duck eggs in the incubator. Thank you. I felt like I needed to reciprocate.
So, now we're going to be able to try something new. So,
we've never had quail eggs, and They're tiny and they seem pointless.
They are so tiny. I like this bit.
But we're gonna try them for the first time.
I don't even know how you're supposed to crack these. That was so hard to crack. I don't think that's how you do it.
I don't think so either.
I just don't get how to do it. I'm gonna go all the way around and make sure I get it good.
We probably look so silly right now.
It's so small.
People are laughing at us as they're watching.
But it's so hard.
That's how the duck eggs are. They're so hard, but because they're so big,
I can't get the.
I know there's nowhere to grip
break.
onto.
Like, are you supposed to stab it with a knife?
I don't know.
5 quail eggs make about 1 egg.
Are we gonna use a fork, or are we gonna make this like my duck egg test?
Oh, you did it by your fingers? Yeah, it's fluffy. That was a fluffy egg. Right. Come to find out.
That's fluffy.
For a band, really.
This is a fried egg, y'all.
A fluffy fried egg.
That doesn't make any sense. I'm really confused right now.
Yeah.
It tastes like an egg, though.
Oh, yeah. Definitely still has that egg taste.
I'm really confused what's happening right now.
For being a fried egg.
This tastes like scrambled eggs.
Like the texture.
Yeah, the texture, yeah.
Knowing that I just fried it, though, I just fully... I mixed it all together. Fried it straight on through. Flipped it one time. Cooked it through. Boom.
I don't know. I'd have to try it a second time, but... So let me not stick my foot in my mouth. But
5.
I don't like eggs.
5 quail eggs. You could probably do 6 just to keep it like... So I have a dozen eggs. So you need a whole dozen to make 2 fried eggs.
I don't like eggs, but that was pretty decent. We've had so many updates. Everything is crazy. And that's really just only animal updates. Yeah. Like, we haven't gotten into...
The mechanical things on
the
house.
We've had a lot of things that's been going on. So the updates have been more farm related, but next we'll have to update you on the home side of things.
Like, comment, share, subscribe. Give your neighbor down the street something, because he might give you something that you've never ever tried.
Be more open and willing to
get to know your neighbors.
Get to know your neighbors.
Big community, small community.
You might just be surprised. They might become a big part of your life.
And hopefully we are getting to become part of your life.
I like how you just slid that in there.
You like that? That's good. Man.
Tell all your friends.
Like, comment, share, subscribe.
Okay, we already did that.
Did we do that already?
Yes. Next time, bye.